Let's bring in our legal eagles now. Senior judicial correspondent Andrew Napolitano, Judge Nap, with us in studio, and so is Dante Mills, political commentator and a federal attorney with Mills Legal LLC. All right, guys, I know you thought this idea was a little bit out there yesterday, Judge, and now we're seeing confirmation on the Hill. But one thing I want to ask, and I'll start with you, Dante, there's no partisan requirement, according to Blanche, so we could say the Hunter Biden come in and say, wait, I want to recoup my legal fees.
We could say that, but the issue is who's going to be appointed to decide who gets a piece of this pie, right? So, yes, as Todd Blanche said today, anybody can apply. Any American citizen that feels the Department of Justice has been weaponized against them can apply, but there's going to be somebody sitting there determining who can get those funds, and if it's the president's friends sitting on that panel, I'm certain they're not going to give a check to James Comey if he comes in and says, the Department of Justice was weaponized against me.
Yeah, well, he's got some other issues there about the seashells. So, all right, let's talk about what we also heard today, because Chris Van Hollen, the senator from Maryland judge, also said rewarding criminals is, quote, insane. But weaponization, you have to admit, is very real. And I think millions of Americans who watched the last campaign season, no doubt, saw some charges that were manufactured and statutes that were created used against the man who is now sitting the Oval Office.
Let me say that I agree with everything that Dante just said, and the procedure already exists for people who have been aggrieved. It's called a lawsuit.
Absolutely.
You file a lawsuit against the federal government, and you persuade a jury that the government harmed you. You were improperly...
So they got a little creative here.
But that type of creativity, which involves changing the law and which involves appropriations never authorized by Congress, needs to be approved by Congress. That's Senator Van Hollen's complaint.
And maybe it will, maybe it won't.
Yeah, they're saying that this hearing was about the budget, but really it was about, is there independence in the Justice Department?
Yeah.
That's where they were pushing, and I don't think this program really puts that up as an independent organization.
How do you think in that regard that acting Attorney General Todd Blanche fared? Because some say he may actually end up being the Attorney General, not just acting.
Well, it's obvious he wants to be the Attorney General. I don't blame him. If I were in his position,
Sure.
I would want that as well. But I also think he was candid enough to recognize this is totally unprecedented and not even authorized by the statutes. It's not even authorized by the Constitution. This wasn't even a real lawsuit where the president is the plaintiff and the boss of the defendants.
Okay, I understand all you're saying, but you do have to give me the case that I said people believe that there were statutes created that were applied to President Trump. Fair?
There's no question but that Trump was treated unfairly.
I agree with that. And I also agree, I think Todd Blanche did a good job today. People expected a shouting match. I think he composed himself, which is that hasn't been happening to this point.
Well,
so
y'all remember he left private practice to go represent the president on the trail. So he's been very loyal and paying off. We'll see where it goes. Finally, though, there was a hearing today. Charlie Kirk, the man charged with assassinating him, Tyler Robinson's defense team was looking to prevent the public from seeing evidence that could later be deemed inadmissible. Defense is saying the evidence basically could infect the potential of the jury pool. Do you think that they should be sealing some of this evidence in his right to get a fair trial? I'll start with you, Dante.
Absolutely. I think that there's a risk because of the public nature of this case that the people around, when they come in for the jury pool, they're going to be asked, have you heard about this? Are you aware of this? You want their answer to be no. You want them to come in as pure as possible. It's easy for a judge to say, we're going to determine what evidence should come in, what evidence can come in, and if it's not, or before that determination is made, we're just going to keep it under seal so that nobody hears about it.
I'll let you answer this, Judge, in our final seconds, but also Robinson's defense attorneys want the prosecutors punished for violating a gag order.
Well, I would not have imposed the gag order because I don't believe in gag orders. However, if I'm a judge and a gag order has been issued, I wouldn't hold the prosecutor in contempt. That's a serious mark on his record, but I would admonish him. The gag order applies to both sides, counsel. They don't talk, you don't talk.
Interesting. Well, appreciate both of your perspectives, and we'll see where the slush
And nobody will
fund
violate
goes.
this judge's gag order.
Oh, absolutely. We know better than that. Judge Napolitano does not play. Thanks, guys. Dante Mills, appreciate you both here in studio with such expert legal opinions here.